am Audie Murphy, the sister of Audie L. Murphy, the most decorated hero of World War II.
In 1971, America's most decorated soldier died in a plane crash. But that's not the mystery. For 26 years, Audie Murphy hid something from everyone. He lived in his own garage while his family slept in the house. He kept a loaded pistol under his pillow every night. He lost $3 million gambling, and nobody knew. The government investigated him. His widow sued for $10 million. The real question isn't how he died. It's why the man who killed 241 enemy soldiers was terrified to sleep in his own bed. He was born on June 20th, 1925 in Kingston, Texas, into a family that could barely survive. Audie Murphy was the seventh of 12 children. His father was known more for disappearing than for providing. One day he was there, and the next he was gone. That left Audie at just 12 years old with no choice but to become the man of the house. He left school in the 5th grade and started picking cotton for $1 a day. Adjusted for today, that's about $23. That little money had to feed a house full of siblings. It was no life for a child, but there was no one else to do it. Then came the blow that would change him forever. In 1941, when Audie was just 16, his mother, Josie, died from pneumonia and heart disease. She was only 50. After that, his 3 youngest siblings were taken away and placed in an orphanage. Audie was left completely alone. He never recovered from that loss. He once said, "She took something of me with her. I've been searching for it ever since." That emptiness stayed with him, and he began to fill it the only way he knew, by stepping into danger. He had already learned how to survive before the Army ever handed him a weapon. Hunger taught him to shoot, with only a few bullets. Every shot had to count. If he missed, his siblings didn't eat. He hunted rabbits and squirrels with a slingshot and a borrowed rifle. A neighbor once said Audie never missed. His aim was so sharp, it became the one thing in his life he could control. Later, that same skill would make him one of the deadliest soldiers of World War II. By the end of the war, he had killed at least 240 enemy soldiers. But when he first tried to enlist, no one wanted him. He was too small, too skinny. He stood just 5 feet 5 inches and weighed barely 112 pounds. The Marines said no. The Navy said no. Even the Army didn't want him in combat. They tried to send him to cook school. But Audie wasn't going to fry eggs while others fought. His sister helped him forge a birth certificate to make him look older. Eventually, the Army gave in. On June 30th, 1942, he joined up. He was only 17. The war gave him something to aim at and something to unleash the pain he had bottled up for years. His first kills happened in Sicily in July 1943. 2 Italian officers on horseback tried to escape. Audie dropped both with 2 clean shots. He was 18. That same week, he caught malaria, but still kept fighting. The disease came back again and again throughout the war. Each time he refused to stay in the hospital for long. He always returned to the front. At Anio, Italy in early 1944, he walked into hell. The beachhead turned into a slaughterhouse. Thousands died. Audie called a place where you felt like a fugitive from the law of averages. You knew your number would come soon. On March 2nd, he crawled through enemy fire, got close to a German tank, and took it out with rifle grenades, all by himself. That act earned him a Bronze Star. But more than medals, it showed something deeper. He had stopped being afraid. But no moment affected him like the death of his best friend, Laddie Tipton. They were fighting in France near a vineyard. 2 Germans waved a white flag, pretending to surrender. Tipton stepped forward. They gunned him down in an instant. Something broke inside Audie. He charged a German position alone, took their machine gun, killed 6, wounded 2, captured the rest. He didn't stop firing until no one moved. He later wrote, "I do not stop firing while there is a quiver of life left in them." That wasn't just revenge. It was grief, rage, and survival all in one. As the war dragged on, Audie changed. While others wore down, he sharpened. Bullets didn't scare him anymore. Officers said he could assess danger better than anyone. Soldiers around him respected him, but they also feared him. He didn't talk much, hardly got mail. He was no longer just a soldier. He had become something else, something colder. When the Army offered to make him an officer, he said no. He didn't want to leave his men behind. He even refused a promotion because he didn't want to force his exhausted unit to do drills. Malaria came back again. He was hospitalized several times, once in Sicily, once in Naples, again in March 1944, but he kept returning to the fight. On May 8, 1944, he and 60 men from Company B received the Combat Infantryman Badge. It was an honor for those who had been in the worst of it. But for Audie, no badge could fix what the war had taken. On January 26, 1945, near a small French village called Holtz, a 19-year-old soldier named Audie Murphy stood between death and his countrymen. His unit, Company B, was nearly wiped out. Just a day earlier, 102 out of 120 men had been lost. Only 18 were left standing. And now, they were facing 6 German tanks and 250 enemy soldiers. The ground was frozen. They couldn't even dig trenches. There was nowhere to hide, no backup, no real hope. Still, Murphy refused to retreat. Then came the moment that should have ended everything. A German shell hit the M10 tank destroyer right next to Murphy's position. It exploded in flames. The crew abandoned it. The fire was rising fast. Any sane person would have run, but Murphy climbed on top of it. With fire under his feet, he grabbed a .50 caliber machine gun mounted on the tank and started shooting. He didn't stop. The Germans fired from 3 sides. Bullets rained down, but Murphy stayed put. His leg was hit by shrapnel. He kept firing. He held a field radio in one hand, calling in artillery strikes, and worked the machine gun with the other. For 1 full hour, 60 minutes, he fought alone, directing bombs, cutting down enemy soldiers, watching them get as close as 10 yards before he opened fire. One of his men, Private Anthony Abramsky, watched in disbelief. He said, "I expected to see the whole damn tank destroyer blow up under him any minute, but it never did." By the time the smoke cleared, Murphy had killed or wounded around 50 German soldiers. He turned back an entire enemy attack almost by himself. The tanks had to retreat once their infantry support was wiped out. His own men were stunned. They thought they had just witnessed him die, but instead they saw something else, something that didn't seem human. Murphy was wounded, exhausted, and covered in blood. But when his men moved forward to finish the fight, he joined them, not from behind, from the front. Abramsky later called it the greatest display of guts and courage I have ever seen. By the time he turned 21, Audie Murphy had done something no one else in American history had ever done. He had earned 33 U.S. military medals, not over a lifetime. Just during World War II, every Combat Valor Award available at the time, he had them all. The Medal of Honor, the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, 2 Bronze Stars, 3 Purple Hearts. He even had the Legion of Merit. That's not even counting the campaign ribbons with multiple battle stars or the 4 medals from France and Belgium. The French called him a Chevalier of the Legion of Honor. They gave him 2 Quadre medals. Belgium awarded him the Croix de Guerre 1940 Palm, but he didn't show these off. He gave many away. The replacements are now in a museum in Dallas. Then there's a number that followed him forever, 241. That's how many enemy soldiers the U.S. Army credited Murphy with killing. Other estimates go even higher. Some say up to 250, including those killed by artillery. He called in, but Murphy didn't want to talk about it. When a reporter asked how they came up with the number, he just said, "I don't know how they know. I didn't keep count. I don't want to know." Another time, someone asked him what it felt like to have killed that many people. He replied, "It didn't feel either way. Feeling wasn't a luxury in the infantry." He never bragged about it. If anything, it weighed on him. He once said, "The only thing I've ever found I was any good at was war, which is a terrible thing." Everything changed when Life magazine put his face on the cover on July 16, 1945. That photo of a young, freckled 21-year-old Texan instantly made him famous. When James Cagney saw Audie Murphy on the cover of Life magazine in July 1945, he saw more than a war hero. He saw potential. The photo labeled Murphy the most decorated soldier, and it struck a chord with Cagney. He brought Murphy to Hollywood, signed him to a production company, and promised a new life in the movies. But things quickly fell apart. Despite the contract, the Cagney brothers never gave Murphy a single role. A falling out ended their deal in 1947. Murphy, now stranded in Hollywood, lived at Terry Hunt's athletic club. He didn't feel like he belonged. He once said the film industry felt fake, plastic, nothing like the battlefield. In 1948, things finally started moving. He landed a small part in Texas, Brooklyn, and heaven for just $500, roughly $7,000 in today's money. That role wasn't glamorous, but it was the beginning. Over the next 2 decades, Murphy appeared in more than 40 films and 1 television series. But behind the screen, he was quietly miserable. He never believed he had what it took. Just before his death, he told a reporter from San Antonio, "I had one hang-up as an actor. I had no talent." He said it with complete honesty. "I told directors that they knew I made the same movie 20 times. It was easy, but it wasn't any good." His words cut through the Hollywood glitter like a knife. Murphy wasn't chasing fame. He was surviving. Then came A Hell and Back, the film that would define him forever. Released in 1955, it was based on his own autobiography. But Murphy didn't want to play himself. He thought the public would think he was cashing in on his war record. He even suggested Tony Curtis for the lead. But no one else could do it justice. The process nearly broke him. Director Jesse Hibbs noticed a stark contrast. In Westerns, Murphy followed orders, but in this film, he became obsessed with every detail. He told the painters how to color craters, so they looked freshly blasted. He checked every soldier's uniform. He advised the special effects team on exactly how explosions should look, because he'd seen them in real life. Still, he hated how Hollywood cleaned it all up. He remembered the Battle of Anzio in pouring rain. On screen, it was sunshine. The Khmer Pocket had been fought in, snow and mud, but in the film it looked too clean, too easy, and that disconnect ate away at him. The public loved it. To Hell and Back became Universal Studios' highest-grossing film. It held that title for 20 years until Jaws came along in 1975. There was no romance, no glamorous love story, just one man's war. And still it made millions. But while the box office boomed, Murphy broke down. He began having nightmares again, the kind he thought he had left behind in Europe. Historian Max Hastings later called Murphy a psychological mess of epic proportions. Reliving those battles for a movie audience didn't bring him peace. It only deepened his scars. In the end, the movie made him a legend, but it also locked him into a version of his life that wasn't real. It was Hollywood's version, not his. And that's not where his story ends. Behind the scenes, Murphy was writing music. From 1962 to 1970, he co-wrote 18 country songs with songwriter Scott Turner. Their biggest hit was Shutters and Boards, written at Murphy's ranch in 1962. It told the story of heartbreak and abandonment. The song struck a nerve. It was recorded by nearly 60 singers in different languages. Big names, too. Dean Martin, Jimmy Dean, Porter Wagoner. Another song came from a moment of silence. Murphy once listened to the wind howling outside his California home and said, "When the wind blows in Chicago." That line turned into a ballad recorded by Dean Martin and Eddie Arnold. He had a natural gift for rhyme and rhythm. He had written poems during the war, and one was published in his memoir, though he gave credit to a fictional soldier named Carrion. Audie Murphy was a war hero, a movie star, and a symbol of American courage. But behind the cameras and medals, his life was filled with heartbreak, addiction, and emotional chaos that most people never saw. In 1949, he married rising actress Wanda Hendricks. She was 21, full of hope, and had fallen for the image of Murphy on a magazine cover. But the man she married wasn't just a hero. He was a damaged soul. At home, Murphy wasn't safe. He had violent flashbacks. He couldn't sleep. He would sometimes hold Wanda at gunpoint, lost in memories of war. The press painted a picture of a perfect couple. Headlines called her his little Hendrix honey. But the reality was terrifying. He asked her to leave Hollywood and move to Texas. But his mood swings and paranoia made even a normal day impossible. She once said, "When I turned to kiss him, he was gone." The man who stood in his place was a stranger. Just 7 months after their wedding, she ran for her life. She filed for divorce on April 19th, 50, citing mental cruelty. It was finalized a year later. Later that same year, Murphy married again, this time to Pamela Archer, a former Army nurse turned airline stewardess. She seemed like someone who might understand him. They had 2 sons, Terry in 1952 and Skipper in 1954. For a while, things looked better. But a different kind of storm was building. Pamela became obsessed with religion. She imposed strict moral rules and turned their home into a place of fear and judgment. After their second son was born, she gave Murphy a brutal ultimatum: stay married, but live a separate life. Legally bound, but emotionally cut off. He was still expected to pay the bills and be a father, but now he was a stranger in his own house. He tried to protect his sons. He wanted to keep them safe from Pamela's extreme beliefs. But the war had taken too much from him. He suffered from insomnia, nightmares, and unpredictable mood swings. He kept a pistol under his pillow every night. The fear never left him. He wanted to be a good dad, but his emotional numbness made real connection impossible. In public interviews, he called them his joy. "If I didn't have Pam and the boys," he once said, "I think I'd still be completely happy living as a hermit." But those moments of warmth never lasted. His trauma always came back. By the late 1960s, Murphy had finally had enough. He planned to divorce Pamela, but he changed his mind. Not for her, but for his sons. He feared what might happen to them if he left. So he stayed, not in the house, but in the garage. He turned it into a living space and lived there secretly. The outside world thought the family was whole. But inside that house, Murphy was exiled. "People didn't know I was living in the garage," he admitted in 1971. He tried to stay close to his kids, but he was only a ghost in their lives. Just before he died, he was speaking to divorce attorneys. But time ran out. Murphy's inner battles didn't just ruin his home life. They destroyed his finances, too. His gambling addiction cost him everything. He lost an estimated $3 million, more than $20 million today. It wasn't casual. He would bet 5 or 6 figures at a time. He chased that rush, maybe trying to recreate the adrenaline of combat. He refused to promote alcohol or cigarettes because he didn't want to mislead young fans. But behind closed doors, he was losing everything to an addiction he couldn't control. His PTSD wasn't just mental. It pushed him into a dangerous dependence on sleeping pills. He relied on a sedative called Placidil to shut off the nightmares. He started taking pills just 2 years after the war ended. The addiction became so severe that in the mid-1960s, he locked himself in a hotel room alone for a week to break it. He endured it all, sweating, shaking, maybe even hallucinating because he wanted to be free of it. He nearly died doing it. But that's how desperate he was to get control of his life. Still, the fear never left. He slept every night with a loaded .45 caliber pistol under his pillow. It was a gift from Gary Cooper, the Western film legend. But Murphy didn't see it as a souvenir. It was a shield. His first wife had once woken up with it pointed at her face. Even in hotel rooms, he kept the habit. No place ever felt safe. In his mind, the war had never ended. By 1968, Audie Murphy's movie career had fallen apart. Just a few years earlier, he was one of Hollywood's biggest stars. He used to earn $100,000 per film. But now, he was being offered as little as $20,000. Producers saw how desperate he was and slashed their offers. They didn't care. He was America's most decorated war hero. They just saw a fading star. And Murphy refused to take easy money. Liquor and cigarette companies came knocking with big deals, but he turned them down. "I couldn't do that to the kids," he said. His morals came before money. His TV show, Whispering Smith, had already flopped in 1961. By the late 60s, the phone stopped ringing. His production company worked out of a basement hotel office. His last movie, A Time for Dying, had so many money problems. It didn't even get released in the U.S. until 1982, 11 years after he died. Murphy said it felt like being a prostitute who was a little over the hill. He was watching his dignity die. Things got worse. Murphy started chasing risky business deals just to survive. In 1967, he invested $260,000, nearly all he had, into an oil venture in Algeria. Then the Six-Day War hit, and the entire investment was wiped out overnight. He was crushed. By 1971, he was chasing any opportunity that could pull him out of debt. He even sold his beloved ranch to Bob Hope, but the money didn't last. He spent his days making endless phone calls, begging for deals that might save him. He was living in a garage away from his wife just to be close to his sons. The man who once fought Nazis was now fighting creditors, bills, and total ruin. As if that weren't enough, the government came for him, too. The IRS launched an investigation over unpaid taxes. When he filed for bankruptcy in 1968, Murphy had to admit he owed a lot. It was humiliating. The same government that had pinned 28 medals on his chest now hounded him for cash. He said it was as bad as dying on a battlefield. On top of the oil loss, the failing movie career, and the failed investments, this was a final blow, and there was no break. A friend later estimated that Murphy had lost about $3 million over the years through gambling. It all added up. He was desperate, drowning, and out of time. Still, he pushed on. On May 28, 1971, he boarded a twin-engine Aero Commander 680 Super for a business trip to Virginia. He was traveling with 5 associates, hoping to lock down a new deal. The flight left from Dalba Peachtree Airport in Atlanta. It was supposed to take less than 2 hours. The skies didn't look great, but they went ahead anyway. No flight plan was filed. No one expected trouble, but trouble came fast. The pilot, Herman Lavelle Butler, looked good on paper, 8,000 flight hours. But there was a catch. He only had 6 hours in that exact type of plane. Worse, he wasn't instrument rated. That meant he couldn't legally fly through clouds, rain, or fog. He didn't know how. And that's exactly what they flew into. The weather turned deadly. Thick fog, clouds hugging the mountains. Visibility just 3 miles. The Blue Ridge Mountains were completely obscured. Butler tried to fly by sight through conditions that required full instrument training. He didn't have it. He pushed on anyway. At one point, he even tried to land on a highway near G, Virginia. The plane was seen circling barely 150 feet above the ground, dodging trees. Then it turned west straight into the mountains. At 12:08 p.m., the aircraft slammed into Brush Mountain, 2,700 foot up. The crash was violent. It killed everyone on board instantly. Murphy's body was thrown uphill from the wreckage. The crash site burned. It took 3 days to find it. Poor weather slowed search planes, and since no flight plan had been filed, no one even knew where to look. 31 aircraft were used in the search. When the wreckage was found, it was 4 miles up steep mountain terrain. The National Transportation Safety Board issued its findings a year later. The cause: Butler kept flying under visual rules when the weather demanded instrument guidance. He had neither the skill nor the experience in that plane. It didn't help that Butler had already crashed a plane the year before. In March 1970, both engines failed because he ran out of fuel. He had tried to land on a highway that time, too, and failed. That should have been a huge red flag, but no one stopped him from flying again. After the crash, the conspiracy theories exploded. Some said it was sabotage. Others believed the government killed Murphy to silence him. He'd been outspoken about veterans' rights and his own mistreatment. But none of the theories held up. The evidence showed pilot error, a bad decision, a preventable tragedy. Murphy's family didn't sit still. His widow, Pamela, filed a $10 million lawsuit against 13 parties: Colorado Aviation, the pilot's estate, and others. After 4 long years, a jury awarded the family $2.5 million in damages. That would be around $14.6 million today. The court ruled that Colorado Aviation was negligent. They had allowed an unqualified pilot to fly a sophisticated aircraft in dangerous conditions. The lawsuit shut down all the conspiracy theories. If there had been foul play, it would have come out during the trial. But there wasn't just failure and loss. Murphy was buried on June 7, 1971 at Arlington National Cemetery. He asked for no special treatment, no golden headstone, just a plain white marker that every soldier gets. And that's exactly what he received. Thousands visit his grave every year. Cemetery officials had to build a path around the tree that shades his resting place because so many people came. His headstone lists his medals: Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, 2 silver stars, and 3 Purple Hearts. When the cemetery offered to upgrade it with gold leaf to reflect his status, the family said no. He wouldn't have wanted that.